the technical side of things, in terms of some of those blocks are not going to receive the same level of refurbishment as retrofit as we're going to see on Lancaster West. Now, that said, all of them are going to have substantial improvements. So Bramley House will be this borough's first fully triple glazed housing block, sooner than anything on Lancaster West, for example. So there are some low-hanging fruits, if you like, from a technical point of view that we can look at. And what we're in the process of doing is just drawing up the pros and cons of those options. So dialing it down a little bit, keeping it the same scale, or if you like, escalating and accelerating expansion, so that the leadership team are able to make the right decision. We're looking to be able to present that within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, I think as you set out, there's quite a big range of outcomes that could arise from the decision here made, and we're kind of weighing all of these competing factors. In terms of engagement with residents and people in the immediate vicinity of where the network will be, as well as the ward councillors, I think we all need to make an effort to talk to them and understand their views, because obviously they're the people that will be impacted most by the decision. What work have we already done, or are you doing, to make sure that whatever option we might end up taking forward has been through the appropriate checks and balances?
So I think for reasons that everyone here will be familiar with, we've undertaken an extensive approach to engagement, securing buy-in and support, as is documented in the pack. So it'd be very much continuing what has worked there, in terms of going to residents, talking to them in terms of what would they be worried about in terms of heating and hot water. And I would expect that to be similar things around reliability and cost, would probably the two things that people tend to be concerned about. And then the tertiary factor tends to be around carbon neutrality and sustainability, is what we've found, which marries up with national research in this area. As I say, in terms of work we're doing on Bramley House, we're quite advanced there. Now, there would be some additional capital costs in terms of running pipe work to Bramley House, and also looking at the sort of technical feasibility. So it's not as simple as just sort of plugging it in, per se, but from an engagement point of view, to answer your question, but we're relatively advanced in that case. In terms of the other adjacent blocks to Lancaster West, and we also have the primary schools, through things like the Nottingdale Eco Neighbourhood Programme, which is something that's in the council plan, and not just housing. I think it's fair to say that colleagues in corporate sustainability have got some excellent relationships there. And so in many ways, we've ended up having these sort of cross-fertile discussions in the round. And so we certainly wouldn't be starting at it, from scratch in the way we were with this programme 3 years ago.
No, I think that's helpful. And I know you want to go into I think the thing that I would say is that I think we would probably be looking for assurance from you that options that we're asked to consider in terms of how to respond to the decision that KA have made have been discussed with the residents who will be impacted most by the decisions, and also the ward councillors. So
yes, I second that. So the 10% heat load that was going to go to the KAA, it's obviously disappointing that's not going to happen. So 2 questions. Is the door still open to them? Are they dialogue still happening, so that if they want to change their mind, that can happen? And if they do we still have the capacity for them? And the second thing about Bramley House, that's excellent. It's going to be triple glazed. That's fantastic. Again, would we have the capacity to add them if KA came back?
So we'd already built in an extra 5 to 10% capacity in terms of the scheme, as was with KAA. So there was always a little bit of capacity which we could look to join. And there's a couple of blocks, housing management, HRA blocks over the road from the academy that we are looking to potentially connect, because they're in a bit of an emergency situation. So in terms of the door being open, the nature of these systems is they, to some extent, are built to be able to expand from a technical point of view. Now, to sort of contradict that slightly, we have been waiting as long as we can to work with KA to come up with a deal which is fair, which touches on the general fund HRA issues we were talking about before, because we only really got the final connection fee once we got the tender returns back last summer, which is what has been slightly higher, not as high as we feared it could be, but slightly higher than we previously communicated. So that is what has led KA to think, actually, we'll cover this issue down the road ourselves. Now, we'd actually be open to having reopening that conversation, but we're in a place from a council perspective where we need to make sure that the investment that we're making is something which can be justified as good value for money. So we will need to look for those additional connections now, as we're looking to do. And if KA pick the phone up now, then we'll return the call. But we really ideally need to look to fill the hole that KA leaves and potentially go up to that extra 10% of capacity to deliver the best prices for all the customers, largely our social housing terms, and also in terms of the value for money for the council. Now, that said, when we have spoken to other heat networks, without naming names, they have been in similar situations. And I think I'm happy to say publicly that it's likely that should KAA, let's say in 2 to 3 years, say they wish to join, it's likely that it will cost them more money to join than now, for all manner of reasons around, mobilisation, project management, design, and so on and so forth. However, if that at that point is still the best thing for them to do, from a neighbourhood point of view, that was something that we would absolutely wish to entertain. That said, also you've got the particular sensitivity there of the memorial site as is likely to be in place, within the next few years. And we were looking at one point to run the primary network either adjacent to or through what will become the memorial site. So there is that sort of very local sensitivity as well that to be considered. But the short answer to your question is yes, there absolutely would be an option down the line.
Thank you. Okay, no more questions. In which case we can go to the recommendations in section 2 of the report and in the additional appendix. Are we happy to agree the recommendations?
Yes.
Okay. We move to A5. Any other oral or written public items which we wish to raise urgently? I don't think there are any. In which case, thank you, everyone.
So one thing, are we talking about putting Councillor Ella Wheel on Michelle's spreadsheet? Or
We'll. I
We should discuss. I'll ask and speak to Levan as well.
yeah.
Okay, in that case, thank you, everyone. And this concludes the business on the agenda. And yes, we'll be back.
thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much.
Are we on time now?
Yes. You sure?
Yeah.
Take it, start.
No, that's all good.
Chair, we're still be fun.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think not being